This is Jocko Podcast number 41 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
And tonight we are lucky to have a guest on the podcast. My friend, my teammate, my brother, Tony Eafrati. And I'm going to start the podcast by reading a speech that I wrote when Tony retired from the teams. And for whatever reason, some reason that I don't remember, if it was work or job or some travel or something, I couldn't actually be there to read this myself. And that's the way the teams is. You do your job. That's the priority. And I knew Tony would understand that I wouldn't be there and it would be no big deal to him. And I acted like it was no big deal to me. But I wanted to be there and I should have been there. And I wrote a speech and I emailed it to one of our friends, one of our bros, another SEAL Master Chief, and he read it there. But I should have been there to read it myself. And you will hear that this speech is kind of like Tony is. It's raw and straightforward and real. And so here's the speech that I wrote for Tony when he retired. Here we go. First of all, I apologize to Tony that I couldn't be there out in the desert today to see you off. And for those of you that are with him today, know this. Tony Eafrati is a hero. A dirty, scrappy, rough, hard, mean bastard. But a hero. I've known him for over 20 years, and in those 20 years, I got to see him in many capacities. First, as a young, hardcore, beer-swilling, muscle car driving, machine gunning, fist-fighting third-class petty officer. Then, as an experienced, hardcore, Jack Daniels swilling, fist-fighting, second-class, leading petty officer. Next, as a badass, hardcore, fist-fighting, knowledge-filled, first-class training cell instructor. And finally, as a SEAL platoon chief. And we all know that being a platoon chief is supposed to mean that you're hardcore. It's supposed to mean that you're experienced. It's supposed to mean that you're a tough bastard. It's supposed to mean that you're fearless. It's supposed to mean that you're a true leader of men. And unfortunately, we all know that that isn't always true. But with Tony, it's 100% true. Tony is without question the primordial SEAL chief, the ultimate senior enlisted leader. When I joined the teams, I joined to follow guys like Tony into unbridled combat, into the violent fray, into hell. I was lucky enough to work with Tony when he was one of the platoon chiefs in our task unit at SEAL Team 3 from 2005 to 2006. Task Unit Bruiser. We started our work up here in the desert, the true forging ground of frogmen. With a couple years on me, he was the oldest guy in the troop and therefore the primary representative of the old breed. And he represented the old breed with honor. He immediately proved that he was physically harder, mentally tougher, and operationally superior to any of the young bucks. Really. It was August, 115 plus degrees. He didn't get tired. He outshot everyone. He ran immediate action drills like Erwin Rommel. He didn't drink water. Seriously. Coffee in Copenhagen, that's it. And desert training was just the beginning. He led every evolution through the entire workup. Always coming up with the plan, always training and mentoring the new guys and everyone else. We trained and we trained hard. I drew a line in the sand. Tony held that line. We pushed the envelope in every evolution, and prepared for war. Somehow, some way, we knew what the future held. We deployed to Ramadi, Iraq in April of 2006, and to our absolute joy, it was an embroiled war zone. We had been on the ground about a day when I went to meet the brigade commander. Tony was already out in the city in a sniper overwatch position. As I walked into the brigade tactical operations center and shook hands with the colonel, John Gronsky, he said, "One of your snipers just killed an IED emplacer up on racetrack where we lost four Marines 3 days ago." And that is exactly what he needed us to do. He needed us to kill them. That sniper was Tony. With the first kill of the deployment, strategic due to its timing that opened up the entire battle space to Task Unit Bruiser. And so we fought and killed the enemy by the bushel. And Tony was at the front the entire time. He never wavered. He never faltered. Despite the heat, despite the danger, despite heavy casualties, he constantly pushed to get out over and over and over again to kill the savages that were determined to destroy America and coalition forces. He never asked for a pause or a break or a night off or a minute off. Everything that I ever asked of him, everything he did, and he did it with every ounce of commitment and drive and selflessness and professionalism that any human could ever muster. And we would talk and laugh and we would discuss what we could do better and we would come up with a plan, and in the end, Tony would give me a head nod. And that head nod meant he had it. It was done. He owned it. And I never doubted that, ever. He never missed an operation and applied himself to each mission with solemn gravity as the senior enlisted leader. He pored over maps and imagery. He held detailed warning orders. He briefed the platoon with clarity and directness. He led rehearsals. He did everything he could do to be ready. And his platoon performed magnificently, accounting for hundreds of enemy killed. When his own men were wounded or killed in action, it only fueled his motivation to kill more of the enemy, to fight harder, to slaughter more of the evil, soulless enemy and rid the world of their wretched kind. That is what every SEAL should aspire to be like. In Tony's words, BTF. A big, tough frogman with no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy. Just BTF through everything, like Tony did. For Senior Chief Eafrati's courage, determination, and leadership, I will be eternally grateful. I owe him more than I can ever repay him for what he did for me, for the task unit, for the teams, and for our great nation. Let there be no doubt. The man before you is a hero. The teams are a worse place without his presence, his guidance, his leadership, his example. Those that served with him must strive to carry the torch and pass it on so that his spirit burns bright in the teams forever. I recently watched a movie about Lemmy Kilmister, the leader of the original classic heavy metal thrash band Motorhead. The movie chronicles the life of Lemmy, the hard-living rock and roll legend. The movie paints a picture of a unique individual that can never exist again. The movie is called Lemmy. 49% motherfucker, 51% son of a bitch. And that seems to suit Lemmy pretty well. And I'm not exactly sure how those numbers would break out for Tony, but I do know this. Tony Eafrati is 100% frogman. Always was, and always will be. Tony, thanks for everything. I'll see you on the other side. BTF. Jocko. And with that, Tony, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, brother. Kind of forgot about that there, and that was good. And the guy we're talking about read it pretty good too. And I didn't have like a big ceremony or nothing. I just went out to Nyland and we got all gummed up, and that was about it. But I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
it's good to see you, brother.
It's good seeing you too.